grateful for the opportunity to introduce the Global Israel Initiative and share some of the thinking behind it, because it's our first strategic expansion since launching Signal Group in 2011. The Global Israel Initiative, the GII, evolved out of our understanding of China's rise on the world stage. The trajectory of that rise led to Israel's new imperative regarding China, a great power that is here to stay, one that will continue to influence global affairs, including in Israel and the region, in ways that suit China. In some cases, that's going to be good for Israel. In others, China's positions and policies will not favor Israel's national interests, as we have seen increasingly over the past few years, and quite strikingly, since October 7. Israel's new imperative regarding China is to manage the pros and cons to its best possible benefit. The GII, the Global Israel Initiative, understands that this is no longer a game of chess, where, as in the Cold War, the pieces were moved to destroy the enemy or take the king. We now have a game of Wei Qi, or Go, one of strategic encirclement, where the pieces are moved in a fashion that will change the calculus at any given time. In Wei Qi and in strategic encirclement, we have new tools of trade. We have a battlefield that is complex and multifaceted. And the new tools of trade include things such as fighting for control of core minerals, or battling for the production of green technologies or the technologies of the Fourth Industrial Revolution, or creating asymmetries and dependencies, or trying to mitigate or end them. The GII takes all these into consideration, as it does the power of perception. In that power of perception, we're looking at narrative warfare, as is being played out right now on TikTok and X and in traditional media, where AI-generated deepfakes make it impossible to discern fact from fiction. The GII also recognizes the redistribution of power and the shift in power, where the US is no longer the heavyweight champion it once was. Yes, it is still the major power, but the challenging power is growing in impact and popularity. In this new landscape, what does it mean for the rest of us? Small and middle powers that comprise the rest of the world. What does it mean for Israel? On the one hand, the great powers are upping their game. On the other, they really can't go it alone, and we can take, for example, how China puts so much effort into expanding BRICS and bringing in Gulf countries, or how it claims to lead the global South because it needs those numbers. We can also look at the United States and how it is moving from a hub and spokes approach to a lattice strategy where small and middle powers are not only collaborating and cooperating with the US, but also with each other, as we see in the trilateral of Japan, South Korea, and US, which was a surprise to China, and also in the quadrilateral, the Australia, Japan, US, and India cooperation. All of this speaks to the growing role of middle powers. As we think about this, we want to look at what's Israel's role. Traditionally, Israel's national security and foreign affairs establishment see Israel as solely a regional power, a Middle East regional power. We say, however, that the shifting global strategic landscape and China's rise lead to a new imperative and compel Israel to look beyond the Middle East, to look beyond the region, to the global arena. And from our perspective, this is encompassed by the Global Israel Initiative, to look eastward to the Indo-Pacific and focus on Israel as a middle power. Indo-Pacific, middle power, two terms that are critical to our strategy that do not have Hebrew versions. We have coined Matzamat Tavech for middle power, so remember that. Let's look at the middle power aspect of the Global Israel Initiative. Israel is already a middle power, and we have been for some time. We punch above our weight in many of the technologies of the Fourth Industrial Revolution. We're talking about cyber, nano, chip design, quantum, and the very well-known fields of military and defense technology, and that doesn't even mention our global contribution for decades in water and agricultural technology. The fact that Indo-Pacific countries are increasingly interested in Israel's areas of expertise only speak to our growing role as a middle power. And we see how the middle power strategy has done very well for certain Middle East countries. Qatar, UAE, they punch above their weight and expand their influence and stature worldwide. So let's look at the Indo-Pacific aspect of this GII. The Indo-Pacific is not a term you hear very often in Israel, but in the rest of the world, it's quite common. US, Europe, and of course across Asia. The term emerged in 2013 and was strongly supported by Japan's late Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, and it caught on. It generally refers to the Indian and Pacific Oceans and is essentially a geostrategic term that is referring to the countries of Asia and the Pacific Rim and their experience with a rising China and the related benefits and challenges. The GII brings these two concepts together, middle power and Indo-Pacific. How can Israel, as a middle power on the world stage, contribute more to international collaborations, but instead of putting so much energy into the West, or focusing so much on the West, to expand its resources invested in cultivating ties with Japan, with India, South Korea, Vietnam, in small groupings of countries that are interest-based with added value, bringing in Europe and Middle East countries where they can contribute and benefit. The GII, which was designed in order to strengthen Israel in the face of a rising China, was in fact inspired by China and the suite of initiatives that President Xi Jinping has said are fashioned to reshape global governance. The Global Development Initiative, GDI, Global Civilization Initiative, GCI, and the Global Security Initiative, GSI. Notably, when the GSI was first made public, China's top diplomat, Wang Yi, announced that it should become, China's GSI should become, the new security architecture for the Middle East. So it was no surprise that the GSI was embedded in the Saudi-Iran agreement brokered by China. So China has the GDI, GCI, GSI, we have the GII. Why do we expect the GII to be an effective strategy for Israel vis-a-vis China? China responds to success. It recognizes and respects the diplomatic stature of a country based in part on its partnerships with other countries. The GII aims to expand the scope and reach of Israel's global ties and thereby enhance our international influence and bolster our strategic posture and resilience. Like China, Israel prioritizes national security. I think we can all agree to that. So China Beijing must understand that Israel can't ignore the geostrategic changes taking place in our region and on the global stage. When considering how to address these evolving circumstances, we can do so in ways that foster new opportunities, GII, and also to mitigate a range of risks. Once we have cultivated and expanded these ties, we can look to a strategy that offers credible benefits to Israel's national security writ large and contributes to maintaining our qualitative edge. These are the goals of the GII. Thank you.